Could we have everybody take a seat, please? We're here tonight to get some information. The first thing I'd like to say that we endorse, as the HOA, we endorse, that's the Homeowners Association, we endorse no candidate. It's strictly information and for the neighborhood and the people that's here, and to give each candidate the opportunity to come out and to win your vote. We will start with a prayer. That's the way we start all of our meetings. So we just so happen to have a minister, and so Mr. Moon is going to say our prayer for us.
Let's pray. Our Lord Jesus, we praise you. Lord, we thank you so much for another day that you've given us to serve you. Lord, I just pray that in all that we do, God, tonight, we pray, Father, that you would look down upon us from heaven tonight, Father, and that you would be blessed. God, I pray that we would not do anything that would be outside your will. God, we just thank you so much for this Homeowners Association, for them allowing us to come together tonight. We thank you, Father, for this place that you've given us, Lord, this worship center that you've given us to come together. And, Father, I pray that your Holy Spirit would move in us tonight, Father, that you would come and that you would touch each life, Father, that's here tonight. And, Lord, I do pray that if there be one here that doesn't know you, I pray, God, that there would be something said that would draw them closer to you is my prayer. Now, Lord, be with us tonight. Watch over us and protect us. And, Lord, we'll give you all the glory and the praise and the honor because you alone are worthy. We ask these things in the wonderful name of Jesus. Amen.
We'd also like to, something that we have started this year, and we feel that it's fitting with everything that's going on, is we start by doing a pledge of allegiance to the flag. So would everybody stand, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. Before we get started with the candidates, I got one more thing to say. The HOA, I'm really disappointed with the amount of people that are here tonight. I would figure this is a very, very important voting coming up. The HOA is not your typical HOA. We're here to help the people of our neighborhood, to keep values up, to try to do things the right way. I am the president of the HOA as of right now, unless Dolores kicks me out. But now that comes under a vote, really. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to plead for everybody that here's this that comes through, become a member of the HOA. It's $40 a year. All the money, every single nickel, and even some of our money, we put back into the neighborhood. The signs, everything. I mean, everything we do here, all the street signs, the brick signs, the flag down there with the lights on it, the Christmas floats, the Halloween we have out and everything. But the more we Neighborhood Watch, that has become a staple, and we've got a lot of young men out here that's really helping us out with this, and old men too. But that has got to something that has really, while you people are sleeping, a lot of these guys are out running the roads, and they're doing stuff, and we're helping and working with the Blount County Sheriff's Department. But again, if more people join, and we're not saying we'll make all decisions on your money. Hey, we need more directors. We have how many we need?
We need about 6 more.
About 6 more directors. We don't have enough for every sector. So anyway, done with that, and we'll talk about that next meeting. But let's have all the candidates come up. Mr. Chapman. There. Mr. Chastain. Here. Mr. Moon. Mr. Price. Oops, excuse me. Mr. Ramsey? Mr. Turner? I got to talk into this too?
Yes.
It's gonna, I don't mean to be turning my back on you guys, but we're going to open up. We're going to have 2 minutes on the opening statement for each person. The question that I'd like for you to answer on your opening statement is, why should these people vote for you? Very simple, okay? When I sit down, your 2 minutes starts. When I stand up, you're at the end of your 2 minutes. I'll give you time to go ahead and do this. But after that, we're going straight to questions from the audience. After all the, and we're going to have to play that because some people's going to want to ask certain candidates questions, and somebody's going to be, so we'll have to play that by ear, okay? After the questions and answers, you'll have either 2 or 3 minutes, depending on the time we have. Hopefully, you can give you 3 minutes to make a closing statement, okay? Everybody understand?
Sure.
All right. We'll go ahead and we'll go. This is all alphabetical order, by the way. Mr. Chapman, you want to be the first to open up?
Sure. Somebody has to.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. My name is James Chapman, for those of you that haven't met me before. My wife and I, Shirley, have been married for over 30 years. We have 2 children and 3 grandchildren. My son's a police officer. I retired as a police chief in Aniana after being a police chief there for 19 years. I worked there for 32 years. I have 38 years total law enforcement experience. We've been in Blount County since 1985. Blount County is our home. We have no desire to go anywhere else. My intent has been to run for sheriff for over 10 years. I have the management experience. I have the law enforcement experience that I think that it's going to take for somebody to step in down there and do the rearranging, do the budgeting, and do the management that is necessary to get the sheriff's department back on the right track. I feel the pain that you people in the Hayden area have been enduring with little law enforcement show. I think it's gotten better lately. But there's been a long time that you haven't had enough of a law enforcement presence in Hayden. I think it's time for that to change. Having said that, my intent, if I become your sheriff, is to take the courthouse annex and put a sheriff's department substation in there, and I plan on doing that within the first few months. I've already discussed that. That has been a point of contention over here for a long time. And for those of you that may or may not know, I've already been planning ahead on what it's going to take with the Sheriff's Department budget, with the manpower and the way they're understaffed. Some of you may or may not recognize John Hallman. John Hallman is going to be my pick for Chief Deputy. He has a lot of years law enforcement experience. He's college educated. He lives in Blount County. He's actually from the Hayden area. He and his wife Misty have 2 children, and he's a Hayden graduate and is currently employed at Gadsden Police Department as a public information officer and as a sergeant. And he will be a great asset for the Sheriff's Department. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chastain.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invite over here tonight. I'm Ronnie Chastain, Ronald Chastain. I'm the one that puts the cards on your churches over here. Been doing that for years. Started with the Sheriff's Department as a reserve in 1991. Got hired full-time in 96. Currently there as a lieutenant. 48 years old. Lived in Blount County my entire life. Be 49 this year. I'm currently a lieutenant. I have been a supervisor for 13 years with the Sheriff's Office. I know these areas. I know these roads. Blount County is my home. Blount County is my heart. My daughter attends Blount County schools. So the schools are in my heart as well. There are issues at the Sheriff's Office. We have morale issues. We also have staffing issues. We have a lot of problems we've got to work through and we've got to fix. I can do that. I'm on the inside. I see what needs to be fixed. However, it goes to where I'm at, and just above my pay grade is where it can be fixed from, and I can't fix it from my position. There are things I've got in place that I've been working on. We have a swing shift on my rotation, which puts 2 deputies in District 1 and 4. You got 1 deputy in 1 and 1 deputy in District 4. We've got 1 that rows back and forth. So that's why your response times have been picking up quicker, because we actually got to put that in place and make that start happening. I believe that our inmates have it made. That needs to stop. All these garbage on the sides of the roads up here need to be picked up. They're going to get off their tails and get out here and start picking garbage up. We're going to make that happen. I said it. If you see my signs say it up there. I'm Ron Chastain. Blount County needs a change. On June 5th, vote for me. Vote for a change in the right direction.
Mr. Mark Moon.
Good evening. My name is Mark Moon. My wife Kelly is here with me tonight. We've been married for this month. We'll make 18 years. Our anniversary's in a couple of weeks. And we have 3 children. Colin is 13. John Caden's birthday is in a week, right? He'll be 11. And Molly, our baby, is 7. And yes, she has Daddy wrapped around her finger very tight. I have been with the Sheriff's Office for 12 years. And I am currently a narcotics investigator. I've been everything from an SRO to a patrol deputy. And like I said, I'm currently serving as a narcotics investigator. I'm also in the military. I've been in the United States Army National Guard for 18 years, where I've done 2 deployments overseas. I went to Iraq in 2003, 04, 05, and Afghanistan in 2011, where I was awarded the Bronze Star for leadership in combat. I'm also a minister. I've been a pastor, or I've been in the ministry for 20 years. March made 20 years I answered my call to preach. It's hard to believe it went by that fast. But I'm currently pastor at County Line Baptist Church. So there has been some talk. If you are looking for a preacher and you are looking for a church, I would love to be that guy at County Line Baptist Church, 77 Smith Mill Road. Praise the Lord. In Trafford, Alabama. So come see me. But no, I believe that God has led me here for a purpose. I believe it's a great purpose. And I'm excited because this is my home. I love Blount County with all my heart. Like Ronnie said, I grew up here. This is Blount County. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Alabama. I graduated from Cleveland High School in 1996, where I played every sport under the sun: football, basketball, baseball. I ran track. I know you can't tell by looking at me now. Praise the Lord. But Cleveland and Blount County, born and raised. I love my home. I love this place. And I want to be that man that you depend on to provide you the safety and security that you deserve. So thank you.
Mr. Price.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Price. I was born and raised here in Blount County. I live in Nectar, what we always called Hog Mountain, but it's County Road 45 now. Went to Cleveland High School, graduated in 1987, went in the military shortly after that. After my 18th birthday, October the 1st, I was in Lackland Air Force Base in the United States Air Force, which was a rude awakening. Spent almost 3 years in the military. At that time, I got my honorable discharge. I came back home, joined the Sheriff's Department Reserves, began to look toward my education and those type things, and stayed in reserves almost 17 years, volunteering my time for the county that I love. Soon after that, I joined the Alabama Air National Guard, where I was called up active duty and guarded General Franks and several of the coalition generals. Stayed in 4 years, got out and began to look toward my education so I could run for sheriff. I ran 4 years ago against the incumbent, and I learned a lot. Learned a whole lot. Began to look and realize that it was most important for me to look toward my education, so I got my associates in computer forensics and cybersecurity. Had planned on looking toward the state as their child's crime investigator. Decided that that's what I wanted to do. I went to Athens State and got my criminal justice degree, looking toward a law degree. August of 2015, I started a journey that was a lot harder than what I thought. The time it takes to put in for a law degree. But in about 3.5 months, I told them, I said, through a lot of prayer and hard work, this last semester went very well. I made all A's and B's. And I'm now looking at, in about 3.5 months, having my Juris Doctorate degree. And in February of 2019, if nothing don't happen, I'm going to take the Alabama State Bar and hopefully be able to pass the bar. They say it's pretty tough, but I'm going to give it a try. I've never backed down from anything. I try my best to give everything I've got to whatever I'm doing at that time. So I realized that that was very important. As your sheriff, it takes education and training. I've got all of that. Got a lot of good plans. 4 years ago, I've not changed a lot of what I said then. It's what I'm saying now. There has to be a change, and it has to be somebody looking from the outside a lot of times to realize that we have to condense some things and make things better for those men and women that work there through raises, education, and training.
Mr. Ramsey.
Thanks for having me tonight. I'm Chase Ramsey. I live in Blountsville on a hay farm, a cattle farm up there. I've spent a lot of time on the west side speaking with citizens out here. I've heard the problems, mainly drugs. I started as a patrolman, Tarrant City, been there 11 years. 2 years after that, got K-9 unit. Then I went to detective office. While I'm there, I got promoted to corporal. Now I'm a sergeant. I've been over evidence technicians. I'm over the property room, which is a very trusted position. I've also done jail management. We operate our own jail. Holds up about 25 people. The reason, I'm sorry, my allergies are killing me tonight. The drug problems out here, I feel that's the main problem, that and traffic, from what I've heard from citizens. I plan on, if elected, we're going to work accidents, traffic fatalities. I'll have a traffic homicide investigator. There's no reason for a deputy to sit there an hour and wait on a trooper to get there. And then, he hangs out with them while they're working the wreck. We're shorthanded as it is. I'm going to work with the commissions. It's their responsibility to fund us enough to get deputies on the street. If they give me that money, that's my main goal, is to get more deputies on the street. I've heard from them before they gave money for that and it wasn't spent there. I promise I'll put deputies on the street if given the opportunity. I'm going to go to 10-hour shifts, which have overlapping shifts from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., then to have overlapping shifts from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m., which will double your deputies. I'll also, once we get enough, I'm going to have a 2-man unit. It's going to be my most proactive deputies. They're going to go around attacking, when crime spikes, going to attack that area all over the county. I'm also want marked units. Everybody have a clearly marked unit for a deterrent factor, except for detectives, which they need their unmarked cars. But as a sheriff, I'll also have a marked unit. We're going to combat drugs. The sentencing guidelines, they're pretty weak. Criminals don't fear jail anymore. Plus, jail's so comfortable for them. They don't fear it. So I'll go after them through their property. I'll use seizures. I'll take their cars. We'll use drug abatement. Go after their house. They can move out of here. That's how it's been successful for me where I work now. It's worked. It gets them kicked out. Landlords love it because they don't have to go through the eviction process. I've also, I failed to mention, I've got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from UAB. I forgot to tell you, I went to McAdory High School. About out of time? All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Turner.
Thank you. I'm Charlie Turner. I've lived here in Blount County my whole life. I went to school at Locust Fork, graduated in '89. I went to work for the Sheriff's Department in 2003. I went to Jefferson County Academy. That's where I got my police officer training. I was actually the president of the class. I worked here in the county for 12 years as a deputy sheriff. I did not agree what was going on with the Sheriff's Department, so I left. I wasn't the ones that stayed, that didn't put up with it. I left to come back in 2015 getting ready to run for sheriff so I could fix it. I know what the problems are. I worked over here in your communities. I was the guy you seen driving the Black Tahoe. We did the roadblocks down here. I've seen a lot of y'all's faces come through the roadblocks. But that's how you combat crime. That's how I know how to do it. I'm here to be your sheriff. I need your vote June 5th. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to take questions from the floor. you can either direct them to an individual candidate, or you get if you just openly ask a question, please hold your hand up and we'll bring you a mic. And but if you open floor question, we'll give each person some time to answer the questions. Wait a minute, Tim.
Okay. Chief Chapman has announced who his chief deputy is, and I'd like to hear if the other 5 candidates are prepared to do the same.
I'll go first. So this is a good question. I'm not going to lie to you. And it's been one of those questions that I have hoped to avoid because the thing about working in the Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Chastain and even Charlie can tell you that a lot of times inside the Sheriff's Department, things get real political. And if you back a candidate and that candidate doesn't win, then you have a lot of fear that you're not going to get treated fairly. So a lot of times we'll not attach ourselves even to the incumbent if possible, because we don't want anybody to fire us per se, right? All right. So anyway, so the man that I have been praying about, and when I first announced my candidacy for sheriff, I went to, or before I even did that, I went to him and told him that I was that I was thinking about it and I was praying about running for sheriff. And I said, "What do you think?" And he was blown away. He was shocked. He couldn't believe it. And I said, "Now I need you to be praying about you being my chief." And he said, "Whoa, you're crazy." I said, "I know, but I love you." This man is on fire for God. He is his heart is in the right place because he loves our department and he loves our county, and he's very professional from top to bottom. And he is probably one of the most respected supervisors in our department. And when I talked to him and asked him, I said, "How do you feel about me telling people that you're going to be my chief?" He said, "Well, go ahead and do it. We'll let God handle everything else." And I said, "Amen, brother." So his name is Brian Witt. And Brian Witt is a road sergeant, and he is fantastic at his job. He is a family man, and he, like I said, is one of the most, if not the most respected person in our department. And I believe just his presence alone will boost the morale of our guys instantly.
Make this a little bit easier. Whenever we have questions for everybody, let's just start and go back around this way, okay? And then the next time I'll start over there and come back around this way.
I had one person in mind as for chief deputy. It was Tommy Dickey. He used to be a deputy here many years ago as an investigator. Talked to him about that, and he told me that he would have to decline because of his health and his grandkids. Therefore, since then, I've got to win an election before I can pick a chief deputy because, like Mr. Moon has already alluded to, anybody that we talk to in our department, if I just go talk to Mark or I talk to anybody in our department, they automatically assume that's who I'm going to pick. I haven't picked anybody. I have a lot of people on my mind, and I've got a lot of things that I want to do. And if these people's mindset fits the same mindset, that's who I'm going to pick. But at this point in time, I do not have a chief deputy.
I'll be glad to. I'm the one that started all this stuff, and I apologize for putting anybody in a bad spot. Yeah, I'm the one that announced that John Hallman is going to be my. Yeah, that's quite all right. But I'd like to reiterate, John Hallman is going to be my chief deputy if I'm elected. That I believe I'm going to be that guy right there. Thank you.
The man that I choose as chief deputy will be like-minded as I am. He'll know budgets. He'll know the inner workings of that department. I'm going to have to decline to tell you. I've got a couple people on my mind. One of them has a law degree. He's a Juris Doctorate degree. And also one, I'm going to have to decline on telling you his name because it will be somebody within that department. And as they've already alluded to, if you bring that out, then a lot of times they are persecuted and put down in their position. So my plan is to walk in that day after I'm elected sheriff, have all my deputies there, and introduce these two men. And allow them to see these two guys and know their education and their training and help me make that choice. I believe it's very important to have somebody in that position that when you leave or you're out talking to the community and you're out talking to people across this county, that he knows what you're thinking and he knows just exactly what you want. So guarantee the day after that I'm elected sheriff, that department and everybody across this county will be pleased with the man that I choose.
Yeah, I've got several in mind as well. My first day, I'll be interviewing for chief deputy. So there's a couple in the department I'm interested in. There's a couple that's not. We're going to pick what's best for the county. Thank you.
I'll be accepting applications. The good old boy system in Blount County is rampant. I won't accept applications for somebody that wants to be the chief. So that's what I'll be doing.
Okay. Next question. David, back in the back. Oh, there we go.
I asked this question of the people that are currently employed with the Blount County Sheriff's Department. Can you tell me exactly how many employees the Blount County Sheriff's Department employs? That includes part-time, full-time, staff, deputies, etc. Do you actually know how many people are on the payroll at the Blount County Sheriff's Department?
Who worked there? 73? Ronnie and Mark. You just asked. Who worked there after Ronnie and Mark?
You just asked the ones that's working at the Sheriff's Department today, right?
That's right.
Full-time and non-sworn, that includes corrections officers that haven't been to the classes yet. They keep adding them, and they keep losing them. So I would have to say 63 to 64. And that varies from week to week because, like I said, we have such a turnover in the jail with the way things are going. And at this point in time, they put a new administrator over the jail, Captain Ron Atkins. He's doing a very good job with that to stop the turnover. And he's doing an awesome job what he's doing.
Does that include the administrative people?
Yes, sir. That's everyone.
I'll get right down to where the rubber meets the road. I'd like to ask each one of you. I don't know any one of you. I've lived in Blount County for about 12 years, but I'd like to hear each one of you. Why should I vote for you instead of one of the other guys?
That's a pretty easy question. I'll reiterate what I've reiterated in every meeting that we've had. I've got 38 years law enforcement experience. I've got 19 in administrative training and administration management as a chief of police. And I think that I am the best qualified person to go in on the first day and start making the right decisions that need to be made down there based on my experience. Thank you.
I've been with the Blount County Sheriff's Department for 27 years full-time reserve time. I'm currently a supervisor with the Sheriff's Department, a lieutenant on patrol. I'm over the patrol on my side of the division over there. I know Blount County. I know Blount County roads. I have a vested interest. My wife, my family, all my family lives in Blount County. My daughter attends Blount County schools, and Blount County is important to me because that's where my heart is, and there's nothing else but Blount County for me.
It's okay if I go ahead? Yeah, go ahead. All right. So I want to say this, and I'm going to steal a quote from a man that I have a lot of respect for, Scott Dawson. He said, the state of Alabama, and I agree, it's the same for Blount County, does not need a businessman and does not need a politician. What the Blount County Sheriff's Office needs is a leader. And I'm a proven leader. I've led troops on the battlefield, been shot at, we've been blown up, and we've got all my guys home safely. I believe that leadership starts with your heart. If your men know that you love them and the people that work for you know that you love them and you care about them, then they're going to work hard for you. I had 16 guys for me when I was in Afghanistan that I was in charge of. I had over $9 million worth of equipment that I was responsible for. So I had to make sure that every single bit of that equipment, every single one of those guys came home safely because they had wives and they had children and they had mothers and they had fathers who wanted them to come back home. And so I made sure that we got home and that my guys were taken care of. And we did. And you know what? My guys knew that I loved them. I worked extra hard every single day to provide everything that they needed and to go out every single day and take care of the little details. And when I did those things, those guys showed their love for me by working hard in the big details. And whenever we were out and we were out on mission, they were spot on. And I'm going to tell you something. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Since I was 18 years old, I've been in some type of law enforcement, whether it be law enforcement in the Air Force, law enforcement in the National Guard, law enforcement as reserve deputy, and 9 years as Alabama State Trooper. Education to me does mean something. It means that I've taken almost 7 to 8 years of my life and devoted to getting more education. And that's important. Because education, and as I look out at the Sheriff's Department, and that just as Brother Moon alluded to, it takes a leader, not a boss. Because a boss drives, a leader leads. And I believe through my education, through my training, I was a self-employed rock mason for some 15, almost 16 years, bidding jobs, making sure I was keeping up with the monies that I had to make sure that I could pay my guys with, doing everything I could to make sure that I ran 3 times for sheriff so far because I care about my county, because I care about the people that work at that department, because I realize that the morale is at a low, and I realize that there's things that's got to be changed. And that's the reason I'm running. Do I have the education training that I stand in need of? Yes, I do, to be your sheriff.
I've wanted to do this my whole life, since I was a kid. I got further education, through my college degree. Why should you vote for me? Because, my main goal is to put more deputies on the street, fix these problems I'm hearing every day. And y'all aren't asking for much. Y'all are asking for what your tax dollars are paid to do. That's to protect you and your property. And that's what I'm going to do. That's my main interest. That's what's going to happen.
Well, I've been to school. I graduated high school, but I've had school of hard knocks too. I've been through everything. Right now, I work for the railroad. I'm a rail traffic controller. You got to be pretty smart to do that, because you got a bunch of crews that you're responsible for all night long. So that's what I do now. I'm not a dummy, but I have been in your communities. I have visited y'all's houses. I know what you need in this community. I know what you need in your houses. I know you need more patrol over here, but all this money that they're talking about they're going to have and they're going to do comes off your taxes. Everyone comes off your tax dollars. So you need to have leadership. I agree. The Sheriff's Department needs it. But you also need somebody that's going to be real tight with your money. So the Sheriff's Department, as it is now, is very top-heavy. There's a lot of chiefs, very few Indians. So we have to get that cut down. That's one of the first things I'm going to do. One of the first agendas I'm going to do. The second one is I'm going to have a policy. So all the men working there, everybody knows what's going to happen to them and what's going to happen next week. The way it is now, if you're real good friends with the sheriff, you get to be a lieutenant. But if you're not, you don't really go nowhere. You stay where you're at. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to my question. I live in Smoke Rise. I have lived in Hayden most all of my life. I think the biggest problem that we have in Blount County by far is the drug and theft problem, because they feed each other. This is very personal to me because my own home was broken into 2 years ago. They took thousands of dollars worth of irreplaceable things and did a lot of damage that took us a while to get fixed. Also, I live on a street where there are 2 known drug houses, and also my husband is the pastor of Blount Springs Baptist Church, and we have a well-known drug house right next door to our church, and we have been there almost 18 years, and absolutely nothing has been done. It's like a slap on the wrist, and we have literally had, 2 years ago, during Vacation Bible School, we had our students there doing outside recreation out in the yard of the church. 20 feet from there, we literally had the cars lined up going to that drug house like cars on a railroad track, and they were parking in the spaces of our church parking lot, right there by our children, waiting to go in and out of it was like cars on a train track. We had to call the deputies to come. We have called too many times to remember about the problem at the house next to our church.
Who is that question for?
For any of them. The problem is, I understand, the problem is the lack of deputies to take care of the situation, the lack of funding to keep these people in jail. There has to be something done. It is personal to me, and it's getting scary because of things that go on my own street, and I've had more things happen on my own street. I know lack of funding is an issue. I don't care if the roads are never paved in Blount County. My concern is what are we going to do about the drug problem? What is the plan? I need to know that there is a plan to do something. They didn't even fingerprint when they came to my house, is my understanding. They don't fingerprint. They do nothing. They know who they are, but they got to catch them. So that means it's up to neighborhood watch people having cameras, and we all have to have cameras in our yards and our homes now, I suppose. But I'm incredibly concerned. I would like to move from where I live. I just need some answers. Do y'all have any solutions, any ideas?
Yeah, I just assumed because you said we were going to continue on. I heard about 5 questions in there, so I'm going to try to address all of them. First of all, my wife works for a real estate company if you want to sell your house. Second of all, there should be someone who is an evidence technician in the sheriff's department. There should be a bunch of somebodies that are evidence technicians. I am an evidence technician myself. I was number 1 in my class. My investigators, if I'm elected sheriff, will all be evidence technicians, and the deputies will be evidence technicians. There's no reason why somebody can't fingerprint some items in your house or give you a valid reason why there's not. Next question, if you called the sheriff's department and they showed up, did they do anything? Did they make an arrest? Did they make a traffic stop? Somebody should have been there, and I'm not faulting either one of these guys because I don't know who was working at the time. Somebody should have shown up and at least interacted with whatever the problem was that was going on. And if they didn't, then you should have went higher in the chain and found out why. Because somebody at the top is elected, and they answer to the people. We work for the people. The one where you said the deputy came and made a report, and they were lined up like a.
No, that was 2 separate things you're talking about. But
okay.
the drug house next door to our church has been an ongoing problem for 17 years or more.
And you reported that?
Time and time.
And they haven't done anything about that?
They come out and watch, and apparently a couple of years ago there was a little sting operation where they got this person for stolen property. But you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that it's drug traffic.
Well,
all you have to do is sit there 5 minutes and watch.
I can tell you that if I'm elected your sheriff, that problem will be alleviated if there's any way that it can be. The investigators that I have working for me not only will work criminal cases, they'll work narcotics also. There won't just be, I think there's 2 narcotics officers now to work all of Blount County that's about 600 square miles and 60,000 people, which is ridiculous. So that problem needs to be fixed.
Can I ask one more question?
Of me?
Of anyone. Yeah, you can answer since you're up. Why can't these drug houses be eliminated? I don't know the law. I don't know what the process is. I don't know what you have to do to get a drug house shut down.
It's a good question. It's a valid question. There's a lot of things that the layperson doesn't know about how law enforcement has to operate and the rules and regulations that we have to go under. District Attorney is here, and she's taking notes. I can just about assure you about who you are. But there's more to looking at some place. We look at a lot of places as law enforcement officers and say, looks like drugs, looks like something shady's going on, or that person looks like somebody that we've dealt with before. But in our system, you have to have something called proof, and you have to have more than reasonable suspicion. You have to have probable cause in order to interact and do something with that. So it takes a lot more than what the average person does, and it takes a lot longer than the 30 minutes or hour that they show on television. There's a lot of work that has to go into it, but there's no reason why after that long that something shouldn't have already been done. Let me give somebody else a chance to answer.
I'm aware of your problem. I've been over there and tried to assist myself. We've sat in Top Hat parking lot, watched them leave out of there and stopped them. We've get searches. We've had dogs. We've had everything over there. I know that the narcotics guys have been working on it pretty hard also. We get over there and we stop the cars leaving there, try to get informants to go in to buy from these people so we can go in and take them down. The sentencing guidelines, which Ms. Casey will tell you, are terrible. We put them in jail. They get right back out. They usually beat us home before we get out. And that is a problem over there. Mr. Graven with Jefferson County has talked to me about that numerous times, and I've worked with him on several different things as well. That's something that will be addressed, and like Mr. Chapman said, that's something we're going to take care of. We'll get it handled. I'll work on it more next week. Yes, ma'am.
Does it require changes in legislation for the laws to change, for stiffer penalties? What as a citizen can we do when we vote next time? I mean, I don't know what the process is. More than just a slap on the wrist needs to be happening.
I agree. That's going to be a question for Ms. Casey for the sentencing guidelines.
I think it was in 2014, the Alabama legislature came to a situation where our Department of Corrections is overcrowded. We're probably at about 180% for what we can house in the DOC. The legislature either had to come up with more funding to build more prisons, or they had to find ways to let them out. They determined that most drug cases, almost all drug cases, are considered nonviolent crimes. We have these worksheets now. I no longer get to decide if you're we hear about the 3 strikes law. Doesn't apply, okay? Had a guy the other day, had 20-something prior felonies, is going to be out in less than 3 years, okay? So they came up with these worksheets I have to fill out looking at their priors. And then I get a prison in or a prison out, okay? You can sell drugs on the street of this county, and if you do it several times before you ever get sentenced, you're not going to prison under the guidelines. Those became mandatory in 2015, if I remember, 2014, okay? Prior to them being mandatory, do you know how many worksheets I filled out? 0. Because I don't agree with them and I don't believe in them. I feel like we work on we're rats on a wheel, okay? I see the same stinking people over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And our hands are tied. Law enforcement's hands tied. My hands are tied because they will not build more prisons to put these people in.
Ms. Casey is right. It is a revolving door. It doesn't matter. It seems like every time we put somebody in, they're coming right back out. And it's just an ongoing problem that we have in Blount County. And it's not just in Blount County. It's all over. You know, I know that you look at the problems that we have in Blount County and you think that this is the worst place that you could ever imagine for drug use. But there's a lot of drugs all over this entire country. But the revolving door has got to stop. The revolving door has got to stop. In order for that to happen, we have got to do something extra for the people who are coming into our jails instead of just putting them in jail and letting them get out. Putting them in jail and letting them get out. We have got to do something for their heart. I've been told it's not our job, that there's other people that can do that job. Why can't we start in the Blount County Jail giving them something that will change their heart and their mind about the decisions that they make in their life? Now, it doesn't have to be mandatory. It can be offered to them so that they can say, yeah, I want to take that opportunity or I don't. But we've tried everything else, and nothing's working. I went to a class one time in Mississippi. It was called Follow the Money. They said, how many drugs are there in the United States of America? How long have we been fighting this war on drugs? Since 1980, right? When President Reagan declared war on drugs. We've been fighting this war for that long. He asked the question, he said, do you think that there are more or less drugs in the United States of America now than there was in 1980? What about you? What do you think? He said, do you think there are more types of drugs in the United States of America now than there was in 1980? Absolutely. So what are we doing? We stop somebody on the street. They got a little bit of dope. We roll them to the next one. We roll them to the next one. We roll them to the next one until the ball stops rolling. Once that ball stops rolling, what do? We start all over again. And they just coming right through the jail and right back out, right through the jail and right back out. There's got to be more to what we're doing than just putting them in jail, putting them in jail, putting them in jail. So why can't we start with our heart? and try to get that fixed. Because if you give them a heart transplant, then their life will change. And that's what I want to do. I want to give them an opportunity when they first step foot into jail. I'm going to offer them an opportunity for a faith-based rehabilitation program that will change their life. And for as far as, I know I'm running out of time, but as far as your situation by your church, every time y'all have called, Tim has come to us. Tim Kent has come to us and said, hey, we're having problems next to the church. Me and my partner Jason, 2 of us, working the county, 2 of us working dope. We go out there and we sit and we watch. And we stop a car and we stop cars and we stop cars. And here's the thing. That person that lives in that house is about to die. They're on their deathbed. And what we're seeing is not necessarily all dope traffic, even though some of it we know it is. But I promise you it's not from a lack of trying to get that house. Because trust me, I'm a pastor of a church, and I pastor a church that sits right in the middle of one of the worst dope areas in Blount County, which is in Trafford.
I'm not going to stand up here and make excuses for you. I'm not going to do that. About 4 months ago, my wife and I had left, came home, and our back door was standing open. We went to the house. My guns were there. We thought nobody had been in our house. Next day, my wife called me, said they've stole all my gold, everything out of my jewelry box. I know how you feel violated. Somebody come into your house, they steal your stuff, and we make excuses. I've heard all over this county, talked to a guy, and he was told that he had insurance, just claiming there was insurance, but they weren't going to catch him anyway. A gentleman told me that someone had stole a winch off the front of his truck. The investigator came out and asked him this simple question: do you want me to go get it back from the pawn shop, or do you want to go get it? Can't make excuses for that. And I understand everybody's point of view. As a law enforcement officer in this county, whether I'm a trooper, whether it's a deputy, whether it's a city officer, our job is to try our best to take care of your situation at the time it's happening. I understand. I can tell you on the mountain I live on, until this gentleman died, he was running a drug house, and there's several more on the mountain I live on. Not everybody's fault. When we pull somebody over and I find drugs on them, my job is to handle the situation at that point in time. Whether it be an arrest and taking him to jail, and most of the time that's the case, then my job, as long as I give the DA's office a good case, my job at that point in time, taking care of that situation, I've done my job, and I'm proud of that. As your sheriff, and I know there's a lot of things, and I've told them all over this county, there's ways that we can put deputies on the road without even touching the budget. But not everybody likes it because it affects it affects what they want to do and how they want to do it. But we've got to change the perception, just as Mr. Chapman has stated. There's things that we can do with our investigative division that will make it better on you. Make sure the lines of communication are open when you have your problem, and you can call and say, hey, this is what's going on in my community. And not only from that time forward, we can communicate with you and make sure you understand that it's not CSI on Channel 6 or whatever channel it comes on. Make you understand and kind of keep you informed on what we're doing in your communities. So just the little simple things that you can change across this county to combat those, because we all know those we talk about the drug, they're the ones stealing from you. I can guarantee those that come in my house, that gold was gone within just a little bit, and they was buying their dope off the street. So I understand rehabilitation, but I also understand that as your sheriff and you've got a problem and you call me out, you expect me to do a job for you. You expect me to keep you informed. You expect me to do just exactly what the law says I can do to take care of your situation. And I think we need to be able to handle those type of situations as a law enforcement officer, as a human being, because I know how you feel violated when somebody comes into your house.
First thing I'm going to do is make this department proactive. We're going from reactive to proactive. We're going to combat drugs with patrol, detectives, the unit, the two-man unit I was talking about earlier, K-9s. Tarrant City, we got 2 detectives, which is a lot smaller than here. I worked all the narcotic cases. I've worked undercover. I've had K-9. I've worked interdiction. I know how to combat it. Like I said earlier, I'm going after their property. because they're not scared of the courts. You start getting them kicked out of their house, you start taking their cars and money, they're going to go somewhere else. I asked somebody the other day, it's gotten quiet around Tarrant City, which is a high crime area. We've been combating drugs down there hard. They go around us now. It's safer to sell their dope in Birmingham than come through Tarrant City because we wear them out. And we got the same problem with the sentencing guidelines down there. I'll put a Class A felony on somebody for trafficking heroin. Like they said, they'll beat me back to the city. He'll get a slap on the wrist, 2 years probation, and that's the same class as a homicide. So if we got to make 10 cases on them to put them in prison, we'll do it. We're going to wear them out. That's my main goal.
Well, probably nobody knows out there it's got a little thing called the Fourth Amendment. If you call, we have to make sure you're protected and the person you're calling about is protected too, because we can't just run in their house and say you're a drug dealer. Like Mark said, we have to stop the cars. We have to build the case. Once you build the case on them, then you have to go before the judge here in Blount County. You have to have oath and affirmation. You know what that means? It means you have to swear that everything you've got from a drug addict is the truth, the best of your ability, to get a search warrant on that house. It don't happen overnight. It takes 3 or 4 months, sometimes 6 months. I made a case in Aniana, 96 grams of heroin. It's still going on 8 years later. I mean, the feds have picked it up, and they're still arresting people on it. Jason told me the other day, I think there's 15 people been arrested off that one traffic stop. So it takes a while. The justice system is slow, but we do catch up to them. But Blount County Jail is being run better by Ron Atkins, I have to admit. But I tell you something used to just make me so mad. I'd go to Jefferson County, pick up somebody, and they'd say, man, I can't wait to get to Blount County. Y'all feed so good up there. We lay around all day. I gained 40 pounds up there last time I was there, Charlie. I laid up there and had a good time. That's going to be over with. They're going to be out working the roads. I'm going to get a piece of property. They're going to grow their own fruit and vegetables. The gravy train's over with. Thank you.
Bob, I'm going to jump in here since I have the microphone, and I have a question too. There are benefits. I'd like to direct this question to Mr. Moon, Investigator Moon. You described your faith-based corrections a little bit. I'd like to know, if you arrest someone, is your faith-based corrections program in addition to or instead of a legal penalty?
Okay, great. So no, we're not letting people go just because they claim they're going to go to church. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is people who we arrest on a drug charge. Let's say a deputy brings somebody in that they arrested and they had, let's say, just a tiny bit of methamphetamine, or maybe even a gram or an 8 ball of methamphetamine. Let's say that they come in and their charge is, the felony that it is. And we seal up that case and we take it to the district attorney. All right? I'm not talking about changing sentencing, because I can't change a sentence. That's up to the district attorney, and that's up to the judges. I'm talking about giving these people an opportunity to change their life. I'm talking about giving them some hope. It's an addition to, yes. I'm talking about giving them real hope. There's only one hope out there, and his name is Jesus, right? The jail's not going to give them hope. The jail, especially in Blount County Jail. But there's only one man out there that can change your life.
If I did my math correctly, and I heard correctly, out of 63 employees, we have 4 deputies patrolling at any given time. Was that correct?
That's correct. 4, 6.
Okay. Since I'm a teacher and 150 words or less, I would like for me to tell me your plan to specifically get more deputies on the road at any given time.
Like I said, we're gonna have to cut the fat. There's too many chiefs, not enough Indians. We're going to bring some of them back to patrol, and we're going to put them out working. That's what's going to have to happen, because right now you can't. There's no money. When you go in and take over the sheriff's office now, you're going to be working under the old budget. So these guys' ideas, what they're going to do with money this, money that, I don't know where they're going to get it.
Like I said, we're going to go to 10-hour shifts. We'll have overlapping shifts for a total of 6 hours out of the day during busy hours. Rearrange the department, it's top heavy. If I have to, I'll get out there. And I've heard there's a problem at the school, a huge problem with traffic at the schools. I heard the deputy sometimes don't get out there in the rain. I plan on getting him a raincoat because he's going to be out there directing traffic. If he wants to be an SRO, he's going to direct traffic, rain or shine. Because that's a pretty good gig they got. They got it made. So they can get a little wet. And, how would you kill me? But yeah, like I said, I'll get with the commissions. I'm work hard with them to get more deputies. We're going to have to do something because it's a big county. It's not safe for the citizens or the deputies, They don't have immediate backup. It's terrible. Thank you.
I'd like to start out. We got some good SRO officers across this county that do their job. As I've stated the last time I run and this time also, I can add 3 to 4 deputies to the road the day after I take without even touching the budget. You have a paper server, you have a special operations officer, you have a mechanic that is a full-time deputy, and you can cut off some of the fat at the top, some investigative positions. 4 deputies the day after I take office, and that's achievable. I understand that at times, I work with them. At times, you got 3 deputies on the road. They're shorthanded. We all understand that. My plan would put 4 deputies plus a supervisor. I would have the supervisor roaming, so each deputy, if they arrest somebody on this side, keep them on this side, have a transport officer carried to the jail. There are so many ways that we can achieve the goal that we're aiming for with the same sheriff's budget we have right now, just by cutting the fat, taking some people's position. Our job as law enforcement officers, as a county sheriff, is to service the courts and address your security and safety concerns. That's our job. And let me, Sheriff, and I guarantee you, the day after I take office, I'll put you some deputies back on the road without touching the budget.
Well, let's face it. There's just so much that you can say about this subject. And all of us are going to say the same thing. Because we all want the same thing. We all want more deputies on the street. Every single one of us. There's not a single person in any of these chairs tonight that doesn't want more deputies on the street because we all feel the same way that you do. I promise you that. And I agree with Mr. Turner and Mr. Price. There's people in our department right now that are we're going to have to readjust. We're going to have to start at the top and work our way and put people back on the streets. There's at least 3 people that can go straight, they can put on a brown uniform and get into a brown patrol car and get to work. And all God's people said, amen. So that's what I'm going to do as well. Also, I'm going to change the way we do things in investigations. And again, this is not an original idea. It's something that's being done all over the country, and it's something that some of these other candidates have talked about. Maybe not tonight, but I know that some of them have talked about it in other forums, is that we're going to do a street crimes unit. We're going to make our investigators actually get out of the office and get together and work together on working street crimes and getting warrants off the street and working narcotics and things like that. So that's a great idea. Again, it's not an original one, but I plan on using it because we need bodies on the street. We've got to have people out there helping you.
I think we've all pretty much blew the 150 words or less. Yes, ma'am. Just like everyone else has said, there are some positions at the top we can cut off the get-go and put them people back on the streets. That's a game plan we've all got, and we're going to make that happen. I've directed traffic over at the school. It's dangerous, but I've done it. And as your sheriff, if I need to direct traffic, I'll direct traffic. That's what we're here for. We're public servants. We're here for you. You are the people who vote. You are the people who say what you want. And if you need somebody to direct traffic, I'm your sheriff. I'll direct your traffic. I'll do whatever you need me to do.
It's tough going last after everybody's already gave you the answers. We just had this very same conversation this morning at 7 o'clock over coffee. We sat down and looked at, me and my chief deputy pick, we sat down and looked at the payroll. We looked at who we were going to cut, positions that we were going to cut that would be fat, that need to be in a uniform, that need to be on the road, and those are part of the people that we're going to put in the substation at Hayden so that we can get more people over here. The thing about the district lines, commission districts are fine for commission district. It has nothing to do with the sheriff's department. Those lines were set up years and years ago, and they're antiquated because the population base has changed in every one of those. Hayden's the biggest voting block. It's the biggest population in the county. They should have had 4 deputies working the Hayden area already. That should have been done several years ago. That's what we intend to do when we trim the fat and get these people on the road. We also intend to get the deputies paid better. A lot of y'all don't know, but most of the deputies, when they start out, it's horrible. They're starting out at $13 an hour or less. You can make more money than that working at any fast food restaurant or working as a waitress and make with your tips a lot better than that. We've got to get the deputies paid better so that they have better morale, they have a better attitude, they take care of their cars, they take care of the people, and they enjoy where they work at. That's where it has to start at. You have to start at the bottom and build this thing from the bottom up to the top. Thank you.
Question.
Speaking about the SROs, I have heard several comments and beliefs about how it should be. SROs should only be in the schools. They should not be out directing traffic. SROs need to make sure that our kids are safe, and they can only do that if they're in the schools, especially during the opening of school in the morning and the closing of school in the afternoon, because that's the best time that somebody who's an idiot will try to get in and create a problem. Okay, my question. What are your thoughts about the possibility of establishing a volunteer corps that would direct traffic at different schools that need to have it? And if you would consider something like that, what type of training would you want these volunteers to have?
Because she just read half of my script at one of the other forums that we had. I keep up with everything that goes on in the country, especially in schools. And on every one of the last few shootings, every one of those shootings have happened when the doors open, either when the kids are going in or when the kids are going out. SROs have no business working out in the road, working traffic. I don't care if it's raining, sun shining, or whatever. They're paid to be in the school protecting your children. And they need to be standing in the doors of the school when the doors are open, when they're coming in, when they're leaving. There's other people that you can use for directing traffic. If deputies aren't available, I agree with using other people. I've talked to several veterans in the Hayden area who said, we would love to do that. I've talked to retired people in the Hayden area that said, we would love to do that if we had the training. There's no reason why we can't do that training for them. There is a liability issue. Me and Ronnie were nodding at each other when she was talking about it. There is a liability issue, but it all stems from training. Everything stems from training. People can learn to do that. It's not just police officers that know how to stand out in the road and direct traffic. I think volunteers would be an excellent choice in the absence of uniformed officers that may not be available. Thank you.
Can I just say ditto? I agree with what he said. I mean, if doing the research about it, if the doors are open, that's when your idiots go in, like we were talking about. And the only way to prevent that is to keep them in the schools. And I've talked to the veterans and retired people as well, and they said they would love to be a part of that, whether it be standing at the schools or helping kids to the bus, whatever they could do. So, I mean, there are a lot of people out here that would love to do that. And as he alluded to, all it takes is training. I think it'd be a great program to have.
Yeah, so what I plan on doing, I plan on having a training officer. That's what I want to do at the sheriff's office. I'm going to have somebody who all they do is they seek out current, up-to-date training for all of our deputies. And that person can also handle training volunteers on how to direct traffic because, that's not a too hard of a task that we can't train people on, volunteers that can come and get that proper training so that we can put them out there. I agree. There is a bit of a liability when we talk about putting people out in the middle of 160 in the middle of the day. I have directed that traffic. I was a school resource officer at Appalachian, and whenever the school resource officer at Hayden was out of town or sick or on vacation, guess who they called to come direct the traffic? This guy. And that is a beast, especially the morning traffic. It is a beast. So, yes, there's going to require some quite very good training for volunteers that are going to want to do that. But I'm all for that. I'm pro people who want to help our kids because, yes, that I do, in all my heart, I believe that school resource officer needs to be inside the school protecting our kids. That's his job. But I dare anybody to go to the sheriff's office and stand around the phones whenever the resource officer is not in 160 for whatever reason, whether it be rain, whether it be somebody sick, or whatever the reason may be standing around the phones about 7:30 and see how many phone calls come in about the SRO not directing traffic. So, but yes, there needs to be somebody in that roadway getting that traffic through because it is an animal. So I agree. I think it's a good idea.
They said we're all going to say the same thing. I sat with a veteran on the courthouse steps today, and he asked me the same question. He said, why can't I go down there and direct traffic? And this is what I told him. With the right training and to ensure that the legality part would allow that, that would be a wonderful idea. But we know how that we must satisfy certain criteria anytime you start putting civilians out in the middle of, like you said, 160. I work wrecks on 160, and it's dangerous enough for me to stand there. They don't slow down for me, and they're definitely not going to slow down for you. So we got to, as we begin to look at these programs that we can help the SROs with, we also got to go over the legality part of standing those guys out there on the center of the road. Car gets wrecked, he gets hit, pedestrian gets hit. We got to figure out what those legalities are and ensure that the county is secure when we start those kind of programs.
I agree. We got to check with the liability on that situation. But as sheriff, my job is public safety. My job is to ensure the safety of the kids entering that busy highway leaving school. So if it's putting a deputy on the street to direct traffic, they're equipped for it. That's my main job, safety. So I wasn't bashing SROs. I'm just saying I've heard tons of complaints about the SRO not being out there during rainy days. I'm trying to fix the solutions. I'm trying to be the solution of the problems that I'm hearing from the citizens. I know they speed bad on 160 in that area during school traffic. If I have to, I'll set deputies down there. We'll write tickets. We'll wear it out until people start realizing, hey, I'm going to the speed limit by the schools.
Next question. I agree with all of them.
Next question right here. Get you in a minute.
I've got a couple of questions. First thing, how do y'all feel about neighborhood watches? You know, we have one here. Everybody agreed that it's a good thing, and you will support the neighborhood watches. You're not going to give them a hard time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This neighborhood watch here is awesome by far.
Okay, that's what we want to hear. Second thing is, you're talking about their liability for the people standing on 160. Go to Gardendale and ask them how they do it. They've been doing it for years, and it's all ladies, and they do it, after school, before school, so they've got a way to do it.
Albertville does that too. Albertville uses volunteers.
Yeah, so that's the way you do it. So we're all right that way.
But there's no 160 either.
And somebody was mentioning about, how about a paddy wagon that travels, all these people that, quote, y'all was supposed to arrest, go get them and carry them to jail, leave the deputy in his district. And then the deputy fills the paperwork out after it's all over, said and done. So they'll take care of that. There's one other thing I was going to get you about. I can't remember what it was now.
We'll get you in a minute. Dolores had a follow-up question. We'll catch her real quick. You're going to have to modify that clock to about 10 seconds.
I'm going to go back to SROs. Hayden, unlike the other school districts, has 4 separate buildings. We have 2 SROs. All the other schools that I know of have 1 SRO, and that's because it is basically centralized and it's localized, that it takes a 1 for 1 building, at the most 2 buildings that are attached. My question is, what are your chances or what are your thoughts about the possibility of getting 2 more SROs for Hayden, 1 for each of the 4 schools? If there's something going on at the middle school, which is off by itself, and the SROs are at the high school or the primary school, what happens at the middle school? There's nobody there to help them. And the same thing with what's in the middle if it's elementary school. We got 4 schools. We got precious cargo in each one of those 4 schools. What's your thought about 4 SROs?
I think it'd be a good idea, but right now the SROs are paid by the tobacco tax, so we'd have to get the funding. Right now, that's the whole thing, the almighty dollar. Like I said, it's going to ultimately come out of y'all's taxes, so we're going to have to just work on that. But I would agree to it if we could find the money.
I agree with him. I'd love to put a SRO in every school. Have to work with the funding. Maybe the schools could pay a little bit of the salaries, help out. We can work at it, different angles.
We're all going to say the same. Our children's precious cargo, and we need to protect them. As Mr. Turner alluded to, it is paid for by the tobacco tax. It'd be wonderful to work with the Board of Education, get those officers in those schools, but ultimately it's going to come down, as Mr. Turner said, the money.
I know Coach Green, and I'm going to call him Coach Green, okay? I know he's Rodney Green to you guys, or Mr. Green, but he was my football coach, so he's Coach Green to me. I know that he is also very pro making sure that our SROs are in the right in our schools, right? He wants protection there all the time. And again, to echo everybody else who's already said something, it is going to come down to money. What I would like to see done, because everything comes out, because all the SROs are paid out of the tobacco tax, they cannot touch it again. They passed some kind of law, you can't touch the tobacco again, and you can't touch alcohol. You can't put an extra tax on alcohol for it. So what I would like to see done, and I'm going to talk to a representative about it, is an extra tax on a 20-ounce drink that you buy at the gas station. Anybody ever go to the gas station and not buy a 20-ounce drink? Right? I mean, well, okay. Hey, it could, whatever. All right? But if you take just one extra penny on a 20-ounce drink all across the county, then you've got enough money to fund 2 more SROs. And our guys have some horrible equipment. These guys will agree. Our SRO equipment is scraping the bottom of the barrel. We didn't get any new vehicles this year. And unfortunately, what happens whenever we get new vehicles at the sheriff's office, vehicles get passed down to our SROs. And when you don't get a new vehicle, not one new vehicle in the department, then you've got nothing to pass down to the SROs, and our rolling stock just gets older, and miles just keep getting higher, and that just makes everything worse on everybody. So our guys need some better equipment. And unfortunately, that's going to require some of us to come off of our pockets. I know that most of you would agree, if it is a guarantee, I'm talking about not money going into a slush fund, not money going into some kind of pocketbook. I'm talking about a guaranteed money going to designated to school resource officer program only. Majority of us would agree to that, wouldn't we?
As he said, I talked to Mr. Green about the same issue when we went to the John's house over and talked about this. This was discussed, and I talked to Mr. Green about this. Mr. Green is open for this. He said, we just got to sit down and find a way to fund it. And he said, we'll find a way to fund it. He said, he'd be glad to put 4 officers up there. He said, if y'all can find the vehicles. I said, we've got vehicles that will get them to and from school. That's about all they'll do. But that is being discussed, and we've looked at that before.
They're correct that the money for the SROs does come out of the tobacco tax, and we're at a crossroads. I mean, we're trying to get everybody to quit doing all the bad stuff. We want to quit drinking the soft drinks and smoking cigarettes and all this kind of stuff. So the money is going to quit coming in eventually. So we've got to find another way to fund it. When the SROs are funded out of that, it also pays for their training. I think it might pay for very little equipment right now. So there's got to be another way to find the funding for these guys. But I think that it's going to be a necessity that you have somebody in every one of the schools, but they're going to have to find another way to do it. I think they have. What do they do with the money that's left over at the end of the year? I understand that, but I mean, one of the when I heard that, yeah. I mean, I wanted to verify that because, I mean, like a lot of people doesn't know, drug seizure funds are perpetual funds. They don't go back into the general fund and then they go to Never Never Land at the end of the budget year. That money stays in a fund and it rolls over from one year to the next. And I don't know why they shouldn't be doing the tobacco tax the same way. Why should you split it up and let it go away instead of saving it for a rainy day or when the money starts getting less? That's just a question for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question for you guys. Considering what went on in Florida and the situation there, what is your positions on being able to arm certain qualified individuals within the school? As I saw the television, they killed one coach there. If he'd have been armed, that would have ended the whole massacre. And what happened was it didn't. And there was no police officers to go in there and save those children. They stood outside. My question is, what is your position on arming certain individuals within the school system with weapons?
I was hoping you'd call my name. I'm not opposed to teachers having guns. I am opposed to willy-nilly giving any teacher a gun. I think that there are people that have been trained in the military, people that have been trained in law enforcement, people that have been around guns all their lives, that I think you could, under the right training and the right circumstances, that you could arm them. There are some school systems that have rural schools that have a biometric safe that they keep guns in, and only the school teachers' handprints or fingerprints can open that safe. The problem is they don't have to be alive in order to do that. So, you still have to think about outside the box about how that stuff works. So I'm not opposed to doing that, but I think there's better ways. I think I'd rather have a retired military person with a gun, or maybe retired law enforcement people with a gun that would help volunteer to guard the school. I think it's a very risky situation when you talk about, and I am pro-gun. I think everybody ought to have one that can legally possess one, and I think the permit should be cheap enough that you can afford it. But I think you need to be really careful about just willy-nilly arming any school teacher that wants to have a gun. Thank you. Yeah, I understand. I understand. Right, and I agree with what you're saying. That was one deputy, not a police officer. That was one deputy that made the wrong decision out of tens of thousands of school resource officers that would not have done that. That's right. That's right. I agree.
As we're all going to say the same thing, we're for retired military people that can handle the position, but the thing you're going to run into is there's a lot more to do than carrying a gun after you shoot somebody, because once you shoot somebody, it starts the whole process then if you're going to shoot yourself and everything else, because you've got to live with all the things you're going to go through in your mind. Our school system at this present time is discussing this, but they have not said one way or the other as to which way they're going to go with it. So, as Mr. Chapman's already said, retired police officers, retired military, people that legalize possess a gun, everybody should have a gun. But I'm all for that being outside our schools, protecting our kids as well.
Our teachers have a lot to do already. My wife's a teacher, by the way, and they have a great responsibility of educating our future. And I know we also want to protect our future. I mean, I've got 3 babies in school myself, and I want to make sure that they're well cared for. I also agree that a retired law enforcement officer would be, to me, would be as many retired law enforcement officers you could get in a school would be better for me, just because I know that they have been very well trained. But if we did decide to arm teachers, it would take a very serious vetting process. There would have to be a lot more background checks and a lot deeper research into their psyche and into their history to ensure that they don't. Because we've all seen videos of teachers who go nuts on their kids. We've all seen, right? Kelly, I'm not talking about you. But we've all seen things where there's situations in the classroom where a teacher might do something to a student, and there was wasn't it in Florida not too long ago where a teacher pulled out a gun in his classroom and fired off a round to make people think that he would shot himself. I mean, so there's got to be some serious background checks and vetting process when that comes. But I'm not opposed to, once that happens and once we vet them properly and once we do a good background check on them and make sure that they do have the correct mindset to be able to carry that weapon, that they get a very strict training regiment. In law enforcement and in the military, we have they don't just hand us a gun and say go get them. It's a very lengthy process, for at least 40 hours that we have to get just to be able to come out of the academy, qualify with your weapon at all distances to be able to carry that gun. And so they would need to go through that. And I also believe that they should, if they're going to do that, that it needs to be one of those situations where nobody knows who's armed. Only the teacher that's armed knows, and it's tucked away and hidden and on them at all times, not in a safe, not in a drawer, not somewhere that somebody else might get their hand on, but tucked away somewhere on their person that nobody else can see.
We're going to say the same thing. As long as there's a policy and procedure in place to ensure that no student can get their hands on that weapon, all of us are in agreement, whether it's retired military, security, whatever it might be. We're all going to agree the same thing.
If the schools make a decision to do so, I'd support it. I'd also offer yearly training, maybe have the teachers that want to carry qualify. I agree with vetting them and see who's got, it don't have to be a retired police officer. It can be a citizen that knows their weapons well. But yeah, vet them, train them. I'd offer training at the shooting range. Maybe have them like police where they qualify once a year. But yeah, I'd support it.
Absolutely, I support it. I also support the community watch people coming over training with us. That way you know the officers. That way everybody in the school knows the officers. I agree with it. I think it should be done. The Second Amendment is yours, and you have a God-given right to protect yourself.
I'm going to say something about Sunday thing. Not going to enjoy this, but shooting somebody is not, once you do it, you don't take it back. I don't think teachers, I don't think they could actually do it. If you shoot somebody and you miss and you shoot somebody else and kill them, guess what? You got a death on your hands, and it's a kid. It's a student. Are the teachers going to shoot a student in their class that they've known forever? That's not going to work. Huh? No, it's a fact. Yeah, I know. But I want to make sure they, understand what they're saying and what comes in. And I know Sonny what he's trying to allude to. But I'm telling you, you can't do that. No, they'll never work for anybody. If you've never been in that situation, you've never done it.
Okay, question.
Another thing is, Mr. Chaplin also stated that Hayden, the western section now, is one of the biggest voter blocks. Y'all need to remember that if you get elected sheriff, that Hayden is the biggest voting block. Guess what? 4 years, you might not be a sheriff. So, what you're saying is everybody's going to keep remembering this whole time. So make sure what you're saying is what you're going to do.
All right, next question.
This is not a question, it's just an observation, so you don't have to respond to it. One of the problems that you have, the Sheriff's Department, is communicating with the citizens. And you have a built-in, simple, inexpensive process to do that with your Facebook page and your website that is hopelessly out of date. Nobody keeps up with it. It might as well, for most purposes, not exist. And that is something that you all might want to keep in mind. Whoever is elected, take advantage of that. Assign someone to it who can spend a little time communicating.
Okay, next question.
I actually have several questions, but one of my questions, the first question, my first question is actually for Mr. Moon. You were contacted about a week or so ago by someone regarding some text messages on a cell phone. Do you remember that? Drug dealing on a cell phone?
Yes.
Okay. To your credit, you actually returned the call. The first investigator that we called, we're still waiting to hear from them. Okay? Jason Paul came out, looked at the information, and knew basically every name in those messages. Okay? He also mentioned that the person who had been using the phone had at one time been being surveyed or being watched by the narcotics. But as he put it, we lost track of him when he moved. My issue is the other two investigators who normally work the West Blount area were in constant communication with this person because his son is known in this area for stealing everything under the sun. So my question is, if elected sheriff, what are you going to do to make sure that the narcotic side and the burglary or all the other investigators communicate with each other and say, hey, you've been watching this guy? We've been talking to him. Because I can tell you for a fact that this particular individual, like I said, the son he's known in this area. And I've made phone calls myself. Hey, you're looking for this one? I'm looking at him right now. And a particular investigator drove right by and never did anything. So what are you going to do to remedy that issue?
Is this just for me or for everybody?
That one's just for you only because you were the one that was contacted on this one.
All right, so going back to what I was saying about my street crimes unit, you were talking about communication amongst the investigators. What the street crimes unit is going to be about is going to be all the investigators working together. They're all going to be working dope together. They're all going to be working burglaries. You know, everything that comes in, our guys are going to be working together, getting warrants and stuff off the streets, such as that. So they're going to be working together every day. So that constant contact will be an everyday thing. Because there are people like you're talking about over here that knows people over here. Jason Paul knows everybody in Blount County that's ever done dope. I'm going to tell you right now. And so if you can get that kind of plethora of knowledge out amongst the masses so that everybody knows who they are and knows what to look for, then you've got a much greater chance of being successful in working those crimes and finding those people who are selling dope. So the street crimes unit is going to come together. We'll require all of our investigators to work together for that common goal so that we can get those types of things off the street. And I would like to address the man in the back. When you mentioned about squeezing the trigger, I've been to combat and I've done that. And you're right, it is not an easy task. It is something that you have to live with on a regular basis. And sometimes, so to say that we'd like to put that responsibility on our teachers is a very tough chore because it's hard enough for soldiers. So.
Let me ask one more. Okay, I have one more question. I do agree that in the Hayden area, we have in the past had some of the most awesome SROs. I have a lot of friends who work in the school system right now, and some right now say that one that we have is awesome, and the other one is useless. I'm not a sugarcoater. Okay, one of them they say doesn't patrol hallways, doesn't patrol parking lots, and as a matter of fact, if they need this one particular SRO, they have to knock on the door because he's behind a locked door the majority of the time. What will you as sheriff do to ensure that the students in this area, because we are underserved for the simple fact that there's no other areas in West Blount because there are no other police departments. We don't have a Blountsville Police Department. We don't have a Locust Fork Police Department. It takes a long time to get here. Just a few weeks ago, there was a wreck on Highway 160 at the railroad trestle. 160 was shut down. There was a train on the railroad tracks, and one of the SROs was at the middle school. I know it because I was having to take the back road to go around. So that left 3 of our schools with, if the other SRO was there, covered by one SRO. So what will you do, first of all, to make sure the SROs are trained and actually interacting? Joe Franklin was an awesome SRO. Everybody in West Blount loved. I've seen Joe Franklin do backflips down the football field with these kids. They interact with him, they talk with him, and he, like you alluded to, had a little political issue from what everybody hears with the current sheriff, so he's now jail transporter. So, you know, if you bring Joe Franklin back, that right there is already a feather in your cap. But secondly, what are you going to do to make sure that the SROs that we do have are doing what they're supposed to do and are where they're supposed to be?
Well, let's go back to training and trusting your men that you have leading them. Your lieutenant, he's going to be over them. He's going to make sure that they get the training and they're going to be where they're supposed to be. He's going to be in contact with all the principals of the schools. If something's going on, that's where the lieutenant comes in. He goes to the captain. Captain comes to the sheriff. You know, that's the chain of command. That's what's going to be happening with the sheriff's office. Right now, like I said and told you before, if you're friends with the sheriff, you get what you want. If you're not friends with the sheriff, oh well. Kind of happened like I happened. You know, I had to leave. I couldn't stay there for it. But the SROs are not trained like they should be. They should be the tier 1 training at the sheriff's department because they do protect our children. So they are going to get the best training, but that's going to fall back on the leadership of the lieutenant. If something's going on at the school, the SRO's not doing his job as he should, that should be a training issue that should be worked out. If he can't be an SRO, we'll move him to another spot where he would be a better fit, or she would be a better fit.
Yeah, I'll have a chain of command set up. You know, like you said, the complaints go up the chain. If it gets enough complaints, it'll reach my office. If it gets that high, we'll probably replace the problem. And that's not just SROs. It's going to be anywhere in the department. If somebody can't do their job, we'll find something they can do. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a great guy over SROs. I guarantee if you contact him and tell him your concerns, he'll assure that gentleman does his job. We'll also, as it's been alluded to here, we'll make sure you'll be in contact with your sheriff, and we'll make sure that those schools. I've often said you got to get out of the office and visit every school. If you're a supervisor over those schools, you need to be there at least once a week. You need to go to those schools, talk to your men, talk to the teachers, talk to the principal, find out what's going on. You cannot supervise from the office in Aniana. He does a great job. We'll make sure that these men and women are well trained, make sure they love our children, and ensure that they do their job.
It's an accountability issue is what it is, and it's training. And so the problem that we're having right now is that there isn't real accountability when it comes to certain things. And the problem is not Russ's fault. He mentioned the lieutenant. Russ is doing a great job. Russ Claiborne, if you don't know who he is. He's the lieutenant of the SROs. It's not his fault. He has been told what his job is. And it's to stay at the office and help answer calls, help take I&Os inside the office, and to do things inside the office that's all of us would agree is not his job. Russ wants to be. I've had multiple conversations with Lieutenant Claiborne, and he wants to be out with his guys. He wants to be out in the schools. He wants to be helping train. He wants to be out there leading his guys, but he's being restricted. I promise you that's not going to be the case. I told him, I said, Russ, I said, if I win this thing, all this other responsibility that's been piled up on you, all that stuff's going to be gone, and you're going to be responsible for leading your men, and that's going to be it. And he said, thank you. And so, and then the training is going to go back to my training officer. During the summer, I'm going to work with with Coach Green because we need to get our SROs out in the summer training because right now they work enough ball games, they work enough things at the school. They get enough comp time work built up. They get to take off the whole summer. Amen. That's good stuff. I did it when I was an SRO. But the problem is that that's good time that they need to be training. They need to be learning, advancing in their skills and things they need to be doing to provide a better, safe environment for our children. I also believe that they need to be not just trained in their school, they need to be trained in all the schools in Blount County, and that the road patrol deputies need to train with them. Because if something goes down at Hayden High School, guess who's going to be responding? The patrol guys. Patrol guys are coming. And if they don't know what the inside of that school looks like, then they're going to be lost when it comes to clearing them hallways and clearing those rooms. So that's what I'm going to institute is serious training for our school resource officers. Thanks.
I've also talked with Mr. Claiborne, and like Mr. Moon's already said, that he's got so much problem right now he can't do what he needs to be doing. I wasn't aware of that problem at the schools, but I go by there quite frequently, stop by the schools myself as I'm patrolling in the whole county. I didn't know what was going on, but I can assure you that will not be a problem. I get elected sheriff.
Joe Franklin is a great guy. Joe Franklin worked for me before he went to the sheriff's department. We actually saw him do a backflip over the weekend at the Agribusiness Center, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Russ Franklin is doing a great job. I've had this same conversation with Russ myself. Russ will do his job, and he'll do it great. The summertime is when they have all the classes. For those that y'all don't know it, the SROs do exactly what they said they take. They work very hard during the school year, and they take off in the summer and take their comp time instead of the citizens having to pay them overtime. That's when all of the SRO schools take place, or in the summertime when they're out of school. That's when we always send ours from the city of Aniana. That's when the ones from the sheriff's department will be going for extra training if I'm elected sheriff, and we'll make sure that they have all the training that they're supposed to have. I think most of them are already trained, but they need the advanced level training that also is provided during the summer.
We're going to have to cut the questions off. We're going to be here all night from the looks of it, which was good. I mean, that's great. We had a lot of interest tonight. I just wish more people was here then we could go farther. But we really thank these guys for being here. You've got the information. You can check into them and put them on the spot when it comes voting time. So we're going to let them have we can let them have a 3-minute. We're going to go with 3 minutes, okay? Hey. Can you handle it? You want to start, Charlie? Okay.
I'm not going to hold you 3 minutes. I can let you know that. I'm Charlie Turner. You heard what I stand for. I'm here. I'll be your sheriff. I'll be in the community. Everybody will see me out. Vote for me June 5th. Thank you.
I'm Chase Ramsey. I'm not a great public speaker, politician. I'm a crime fighter. I know how to solve problems. That's why I'm here. I'm here for the people. I don't have the system backing me. I feel this department needs new blood in it, leading it. That's what I'm going to do. I got a Facebook page. Y'all can read what I'm all about, what I stand for. I'm 33 years old. I'm far from retirement, so everything I'm telling you, I'm going to do because I'll need reelected if I get elected this time. Thank you.
I'm Kevin Price, and 4 years ago I went across the county saying the same thing I'm going to tell you tonight. It's about accountability. I believe we need accountability in everything we do. If you do good, you need to be praised. If you do wrong, you need to be corrected. We need a sheriff that is a leader. We need a sheriff that understands people. We need a sheriff that knows exactly what this county needs. 4 years ago I set out. Same thing I'm telling you tonight. Elect me your sheriff, I'll put you 4 deputies on the road day after I get sheriff. I'll make sure that your investigators are doing what they're supposed to be doing. One of the greatest things that we have lacking in our sheriff's department today is communication. Road patrols don't communicate with investigations. Investigations don't communicate with road patrol, and there's a disconnect there. I've heard it all from every deputy across this county. We need to have more communication. Not only communication with our deputies, but communication with the community leaders and citizens across this county. There's a lot of things that need to be changed. Told them 4 years ago about a street crimes unit. Be very simple to have your investigators one big happy family. I've even looked at having an investigator attached to each deputy unit. There's a lot of things that we could do to make it better on the citizens of this county. I have a plan. I had a plan 4 years ago, and I have a plan tonight. And I'm going to keep putting that plan forward. Let everybody listen. If I don't get your sheriff, my plan's out there, and they can use any of it. I'm also working on a way to get our deputies hazard duty pay. I'm fashioning after Walker counties. I've sat down, I've looked at, and it wouldn't cost the taxpayers one dime. I told my wife when I started this race, and I realized my life is laid out on the line, and I understand that. But I told her, I said, it's not about me, and it's not about you, but it's about every citizen across this county. It's about the men and women that work at that department. It's about the lack that they have. That's why I ran for sheriff. That's why I ran for sheriff 4 years ago. I told them the same thing. Things that were lacking then are the same things that are lacking tonight. So we have a choice. All great men, I'm not going to tell you they're not. But we have a choice. I had a plan 4 years ago, and I have a plan tonight. So on June 5th, all I ask is for your vote. Vote for Kevin Price.
So I've said it once, and I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 times again. I love you. You know, I tell my church this. I say, listen, you may get tired of hearing me say that I love you, but I don't care because I'm going to keep telling you because it's true. And here's the thing. I want you to know my heart. I want you to know who I really am. You know, yes, I'm a law enforcement officer. I love my job as a deputy. I'm a soldier. I love serving my country. I'm a pastor. I love my Jesus, and I love my church. But here's the thing that also you need to know about me is that I'm a home man. I like my home. I love Blount County. I've always loved Blount County. I grew up here, and never once did I ever get to a point in my life where I said, I can't wait to graduate and move on and do something better with my life. I can't wait to get out of Cleveland. I can't wait to get out of Blount County. That was never part of my vocabulary because I've always loved my home and my family. And that's what I want to do. I want to protect you, Blount County. I want to be the man you depend on because I want to do whatever is best for you. I want to protect you, and I want you to know that I'm always going to be there. The open door policy, you've heard it 1,000 times. If you need to talk to me, I'm going to be there for you because I want to actually hear what you have to say. I'm going to institute these quarterly programs where we're going to get together in each district, and we're going to have the deputies that work that district as well as me and my chief deputy come together where you as a community can come and you can see the deputies that are working in your communities. You can talk to them, tell them what you're seeing, and they can tell you what they're seeing, and we can have that face-to-face communication so that you can actually get to know and trust the people who are here and working for you. So just like everybody else has said, June 5th, that's the day. I don't know if you've forgotten it or not. June 5th. Please vote for Mark Moon.
I'm Ronnie Chastain, Ronald Chastain. Like I said, my heart's been in Blount County. I've been here, lived here 48 years, been with the Sheriff's Department, 27 years full-time reserve time. Blount County is my life. You are my life. There are a lot of changes that need to be made. I anticipate making those changes when I get in office. I know what needs to be done. We can fix those problems. But this election is not about any one of us sitting up here. It's about you. You are the people who vote. You're the people who have a voice. Do your homework. Follow your candidates. Check them what you need to. And June 5th, Ron Chastain, make a change in a new direction.
Lord, I'm ready to go home, and I know y'all are. I haven't had supper yet. We've got some great people that work at our sheriff's department. They need leadership. They want to do a good job. Most of them do. Most of them get out and try to do a good job with the training that they have. They need somebody who knows how to lead them, that knows how to manage their money, that knows how to get things done. I've got 38 years law enforcement experience, 19 years in management. It's the one thing that I can offer you that no other candidate can offer you. I know how to manage a law enforcement agency. I know how to get things done. The Oneonta Police Department is the best trained, was the best trained, best paid, best equipped department in the county when I left. I want to do the same thing with the Blount County Sheriff's Department, and I don't want it to have to tax the citizens to do that. I think the proper management for the money that is available is one of the keys, and I think paying the deputies what they're worth is one of the biggest keys. I think it's the foundation for trying to get everything started in the right direction. Please look at the training and experience and look at James Chapman on June the 5th as your next sheriff. Thank you very much.
I thought I did a wonderful job, too. But we thank everybody for being here tonight. You have a lot of information that's passed to you tonight. So June 5th, there's time to make it happen. I mean, it's plain and simple. We've got 6 good candidates up here. You just got to pick out which one you want, and we're going to have to go with them. And if it comes down to 2, we're going to have another one. So, hold on a second. But you know, these formats that we have here, we're going to have just before the primary, or after the primary, we're going to have another one and invite the 2 back to June 21st. Okay, I couldn't remember the date. June 21st, we will have a runoff if it's needed. So, for the 2 candidates. So. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Sounds good. They will be here because, you know, we might have more time then, with more questions. So. You don't remember? But anyway, another thing too, we are going to take, this young lady over here reminded me, we can take dues for next year because it's coming up real fast for the HOA fees. We have a lot of things we want to do. And if we can, you know, talk to your neighbors. You know, I don't understand why everybody doesn't pay their dues. I mean, at least 90%, not 3%. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, it's your community. We're doing everything we can. You know, of course, we get paid big bucks too. You know, for doing this. You know, the money is just unbelievable. We get paid so, in more ways than one. So, but, you know, everybody that does these things, we're volunteers. David Hunter back here set this up to stream it tonight, so we can watch it another day. So everybody can go home now. We'll see you later.
Gentlemen, don't disappear. I'd like to get a picture.
Yeah.
Hope I didn't do too bad, Bob.
You did a great job. Thank you very much.
Tried to be fair to everybody and not get too pushy. So, Ms. Price.